morning. My name is Megan Edwards of Focus Communications, and today we're getting another update from Eloro Resources, which trades on the TSX exchange under the symbol ELO. Joining me today is Executive Vice President of Exploration, Bill Pearson. Bill, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Bill, for our listeners today, could you please provide an overview of the company's Iska Iska Project in Bolivia?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're exploring this really quite remarkable silver, tin, zinc polymetallic system that's located in southern Bolivia here. Our usual cautionary language. It's certainly, in my opinion, a world-class discovery. We've got more work to do, and I'll show you what we're going to do. We have a very substantive initial mineral resource estimate, or MRE, over 500 million tons in the polymetallic part of the deposit, and over 100 million tons in the tin department. So very, very substantial. And a lot of people have said, oh, that's kind of low grade. But where we're focused, and I'll explain a little bit about the intricacies of how drill hole spacing really impact the determination of a reasonable estimate of grade. We're very much focused right now on this high grade area, which has 132 million tons, grading 1.11% zinc, 0.5% lead, and about 24%, grams per ton silver, which is in our what we call our potential starter pit area. And 132 million tons is a pretty substantive number. To sort of put that into context, as our CEO mentioned the other day, we've been looking at a potential operation in the order of 35,000 tons per day. That's 12 million tons per year. So a 10-year mine life is 120 million tons. So that's kind of the order of magnitude we're looking at. And as I'll show you, this higher grade area in the starter pit is definitely much higher grade, but we think with further drilling, we'll be able to expand. And the system, of course, has a tremendous amount of contained metal, almost 300 million silver, 4 million tons of zinc, 1.7 lead. The tin part is very, very underexplored. And, you know, in terms of silver equivalent, you're over 1 billion ounces. Our first phase drilling program was very successful. We didn't miss on one hole, and it defined the system. We're moving into the second phase, which is to better define the higher grade part where you can start a potentially economic operation. So just to remind people, we're down here in the southern part of Bolivia. As Dr. Arce, our newly appointed executive VP of Latin America, comments that this is in the giant deposit category of the Bolivian type polymetallic porphyry epithermal deposits. We're down here near a little town called Tupiza. And of course, we're in the same belt as famous deposits like Cerro Rico Deposit C, New Pacific's silver sand, Yega, which is the largest tin deposit. So it's an incredibly well mineralized part of the world, but very underexplored. And if we look at Iska Iska, it's a massive volcanic edifice that formed around 13, 14 million years ago. It was a supervolcano, and you can see from the magnetics here, you can see these dashed black line around here. This system is about 5 by 3 kilometers. It's huge. And one of the great maxims of exploration, if you want to find a big deposit, get in a big system. This is a remarkably big system. Certainly in my experience over 50 years, the largest one I've had the privilege to work on. If we look a little closer here, we're in this classic Caldera complex. It's a collapsed resurgent Caldera complex. We have breccia pipes, dacitic domes, hydrothermal breccias, what we call the Iska Iska porphyry in the middle. The overall complex has a northwest, south-southeast trend with a length of probably up to 4 kilometers, width of 2 kilometers. We know from drilling it goes at least 1 kilometer, and there's 1 kilometer of relief from the valley to the Iska Iska peak, which is at elevation 4,400 meters. And geologically, style of mineralization very similar to the other more well-known deposits in the Bolivian tin belt. You can see this dashed red line here. That's the outline of the MRE pit that defined the initial mineral resource. That is 1.4 kilometers in diameter. Just shows you the scale. This is a 3D model here. Shows you the block model here with the initial MRE up in the top here, and then our magnetic model here, which we think is the potential tin porphyry. And again, you see the scale here, huge. So everybody worried about the grade. So what I'm going to tell you is, don't worry about the grade will come, because much of our drilling is wide-spaced, 100 meters. We know from geological and geophysical data, the mineralization is absolutely there. The continuity of the geophysics is absolutely remarkable. There's a huge chargeability anomaly that runs right across here. There's no doubt the mineralization is continuous, but when you're using wide-spaced holes, you don't get an accurate estimate of grade. I mean, you can imagine you're in on a track and you're running 100 meters. Well, we're extrapolating grade from the starting line to the finish line. It's quite a long way. So, and this was pointed out in the Micon report. If you look at the upper part of the area here where we have a lot more drilling density, guess what? The grade is much higher. And it's not, there isn't any obvious geological reason. It's just much, much better sample. But as I'll show you here, our definition program in this potential starter pit area, we're definitely focused in here, but I'm very confident with time as we fill this in, you'll see this grade of the system come up. We also have areas over here you can see to the right, which are in the resource model as waste, but we have no drilling. So lots of upside here.
So a few weeks ago, I had Tom Larson on to discuss this year's accelerated development at Iska Iska. And today I wanted to take a deeper dive into the next phase definition drilling that was recently announced. So to start off, could you walk us through some of the work your geological team has completed at Iska Iska this year, as it sounds like your team's been quite busy behind the scenes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the problems with exploration is, when you have a number of drills running, you're scrambling to keep up with the core, get it logged and so on and get it out. And it's hard enough just to keep up with that and tabulate results and get them out of press releases. So you don't really have much time to actually work with the data. So we've taken advantage of this slow period to really, really dive into the data, do a lot of our own modeling. And I think the biggest thing that we've come up with, we've always talked about the early tin mineralization and the later epithermal mineralization, the silver, zinc, lead mineralization. Well, we recognize now that there's actually 3 stages of mineralization. Definitely early tin. Then there's early part of the epithermal, which is primarily zinc with probably some lead. And that zinc is like a sheet. Zinc is a very mobile element, and so it spreads out a lot. Tin and zinc are mutually exclusive. If you have tin, you have no zinc. If you have zinc, you have no tin. So they're clearly separate phases. But what is really interesting is silver is found in both zones, in both the tin and the zinc and lead. And that the silver is related to the late stage of this epithermal system. And you find silver in these generally northwest trending structures that dip usually reasonably steeply to the east. So in terms of evaluating how to drill this, the 100-meter holes probably aren't too bad for the zinc because it's very, very consistent. You need to tighten it up for the tin, but certainly looking at data from comparable deposits as well as analyzing our own data, it's clear we need to get to probably about a 50-meter center to start getting accurate silver. And in our previous definition drilling, we had some spectacular numbers. We had one hole that had a 5,000 gram assay in here. So there's some spectacular high silver here, but unless you have tighter space drilling, you're not going to get an appreciation of how significant that. So that's one of the big things that we've really noticed. So we feel we have a much, much better handle geologically to not only plan the next phase program, but to know the drill spacing density that we need, which we will believe will get to a reasonable grade estimate. So essentially our definition program is very much focused on defining the vertical and lateral extent of the high-grade silver mineralization. And as you know, we've reported some tremendous values in the Santa Barbara adit, for example, which, channel sampling returned, 165 grams silver per ton over a strike length of 166 meters, included a 56-meter section that ran well over 400 grams silver. So it shows you the kind of values of silver you can hit in there. And if you have some of this material into your overall average, boy, it sure jumps the overall grade substantially. We're obviously focused on filling in gaps. We go down, say, maybe 100, 150 meters. Our drill density is not too bad. When we get below that, it starts getting way too wide. There's also a number of areas in the model you can see are low grade, or they're in there as waste. But it's not that they're low grade or waste, it's just that there's no data in it. So, and that's obviously very important because that has an impact not only on the resource, but also the stripping ratio. The tin is a high priority target. It's very, very under-drilled. We had some very, very good tin intersections we reported, but definitely it needs more drilling to the west. And I'll show you a slide a little bit later to give the investors a better idea of how expanding that tin zone can have a significant impact. The other thing we need to do, which we put in our plan program after the 5,700 meters of definition drilling, is a couple of larger size PQ holes in the tin zone to further improve our metallurgical testing. We've done a lot of work on the silver and polymetallic zone, but we need some more on the tin. So we're We've got the pads being completed now, and all going well. We'll be able to start this in early October. The last thing I'd just like to say, people have a hard time comprehending the scale of this system. Well, if you look at that yellow circle that's around the definition area, and you can see the red holes there, and so what does that really represent? Well, that ellipse is 700 by 500 meters. And if you take that down to 300 meters depth, which is certainly the depth will be going to, perhaps even a bit deeper, that actually represents a volume of rock that totals 230 million tons roughly. Now, I'm not saying all of that will definitely come into the resource, but it's important that everyone realize the scale of the target that we are testing on this definition drill program. Now, to put it in context, as Tom talked about the other day, our engineering and financial people have been looking at a potential 35,000 ton a day model. Well, that's about 12 million a year. So a 10-year mine life is 120 million, 12 years, 140. So you can get a sense of why we're focusing on this definition program. There's a lot of potential resource in there. We already have quite a bit defined. So it's very reasonable that this program has the potential to outline what we need to get over the finish line in the PEA.
And as mentioned, you've recently commenced an infill drilling program at Iska Iska. Can you walk us through what this multi-phase program will look like for the company?
Well, I think that ideally at the end of the day, and obviously we'll be analyzing this as we go through it. The goal here is to really better define the starter pit area, get to a good, strong mineral resource at a grade that will give us our 10 to 12 year mine life in a PEA. That's the objective. This first phase will be a really, really good start. Obviously, it'll depend on results, and we'll be updating our model to see where we are. It's possible we may need more drilling. Maybe it'll be enough. And I have a slide a little further along that'll, I think, give people a better feeling for how this program can potentially impact not only the starter pit area resource, but also the overall resource.
Okay, perfect. In a previous release, the company has also highlighted the southeast chargeability anomaly target as a high priority target for a potential second starter pit. Can you briefly discuss the potential in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this target. I mean, this is a west-east section looking north here. You can see this purplish area here surrounded by the red. That's the chargeability anomaly. This is actually the entire system here in the silver zinc polymetallic is very chargeable. And the chargeability actually increases as we go to the southeast. I put on this section, you can see the green is the just silver equivalent, silver, lead, and zinc. And you can see the distribution there. Well, it's kind of a no-brainer. This thing continues, and it effectively adds another potential strike length of 600 meters. And this section here really gives you an idea of the magnitude of how we can expand and upgrade this deposit. So again, this is the same section here, but what I've done here, I've shown in purple, I've shown tin. The darker purple is tin with a cutoff grade of 0.2, so it's 0.2 or higher. And the dark green is silver at a cutoff of 30 grams per ton. And you can see there's quite a bit of dark green and there's quite a bit of dark purple. There's the chargeability anomaly down to the southeast. And we know that the west side here, that's where you have tin and silver. And there's sort of a line down the middle, which to the southeast, you have zinc becomes more dominant. You have silver, lead, and zinc. So you can see that. And you can also see there's our definition drilling area in this core area. So the more successful I am in here, and obviously if I'm able to, eventually we'll drill this southeast anomaly and we'll do more tin drilling, you can see the outline of the MRE pit. Well, that's obviously going to push the pit to the west and the pit to the south, and it's going to push it deeper. And you can see that we already have a fair bit of higher grade resource outside of that pit. So very targeted drilling has the potential to really not only substantially upgrade what we're drilling in the definition area in our starter pit area, but also to push this whole thing out and make it even bigger. And you can see in the southeast end here, this chargeability anomaly is not that deep. And if we're successful drilling that and extending the resource here, that brings in the possibility of a second starter pit. And that would be great because you can start up here in Santa Barbara, start down here in the southeast, and eventually the whole thing would coalesce into one giant pit. So it's a very, very exciting picture. And I'm really looking forward to getting back and drilling because I think we have a very, very good handle geologically on exactly what we need to do. I'm very optimistic going into this program that we can really, really set the table to show the world what a fantastic project Iska Iska is.
Thanks, Bill. And to wrap things up, could you briefly recap what excites you about Iska Iska as the company begins this next phase of development?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been in this business for 50 years. I've been fortunate in having some major successes, but it's a real privilege to work on a system of this scale. It's a huge system. It's open along strike, across strike, and down dip. It's got some key minerals that everyone's looking for these days. Silver, obviously, tin. Most people forget about zinc, but it's a very, very important metal. This is a new discovery. This isn't one that the Spanish found 400 years ago. There was very, very minor work at surface, mainly because the mineralization is totally leached out at surface and you don't find anything. If you want to find a great mine, get into a big system. This is a huge system. So we've passed stage one. We've proven that without a doubt, this is a massive system. We're in stage two now to show, hey, there's some significant parts of this system that are economic. And you can imagine that you get this thing going, you pay off your capital, and you're running on an operating basis. You could be here for 50 or more years. Secondly, I think Bolivia is a terrific place to be. We've had great support from the local community, who we do a lot of projects with. We have a tremendous partner in Edwin Villegas. I'm very impressed by the Bolivian contractors, our drill contractor. And believe me, I work with drill contractors all over the world and certainly in South America. They are as good as any drill contractor that you will see, for example, in Northern Ontario or Northern Quebec. There's good construction people. Infrastructure is quite good. So there's a lot of positives here, and the country is very keen on developing mining. And the fact that we've been able to go in and find this enormous deposit just attests to the tremendous exploration potential of this whole Bolivian tin belt. The other thing, if you look at the metallurgical work we've done, Mike Hollywell, our metallurgist, has done a lot of work on ore sorting. It's a game-changing technology. It keeps developing in leaps and bounds. You know, we can get rid of half our waste by processing. So it's a really, really exciting opportunity. We're kind of sitting in the trough now that usually happens after discovery, but I think we're going to be climbing up the curve here. I'm very optimistic about the definition program. And remember, we've done 139 holes and we haven't missed on one hole. It's not necessarily that we're geniuses. It's telling you this is one heck of a system. So I think there's a lot of good things for the Eloro shareholders to look forward to. Yes, it's been a rough last sort of 6 months, but I think we've established a very solid base to build on, and I'm very enthusiastic about the potential going forward. And it's not like we have to do another 100,000 meters of drilling. We're going to be doing targeted drilling, and that's, I think, will really, really move the needle towards getting this PEA done, because all the other pieces we pretty much have in place already.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Bill. And it sounds like you're going to be busy for the remainder of the year. And we look forward to having you back on again soon for the next Eloro update.
Always a pleasure.